club with second place, 2 seasons in a row.
Pause for the shot!
For the second time and first since 94-95, Real Madrid eliminated by lower league opposition for the first time since the 2021 year. This is a disaster for Real Madrid.
And a club with back-to-back champions. One coach, 2 titles, coach of the year twice, and the other 3 red cards, 1 final, total meltdown.
They're not in the Champions League anymore, Tom. They're not in, well, it's looking unlikely in La Liga to win the title there. They're out Copa del Rey. Second season now, they've not won a major trophy. How far off are they from what we expect to see from Real Madrid?
It's a massive disappointment. The expectations at this club are high, as they should be given the roster that they have and the spend that they have.
For more than a century, Real Madrid and Barcelona have fought for trophies. But the war between these two is bigger than just trophies. It's a war for control. Control of La Liga, control of Europe, and now, even the transfer market. Every time Barcelona builds something, Real Madrid responds. Every time Madrid signs a superstar, Barcelona looks for the next answer. And when both clubs want the same player, well, you already know this isn't going to end peacefully. Just 2 years ago, Barcelona looked like the club trying to survive its own problems. Real Madrid had just lifted the 15th Champions League trophy in their history, with Dani Carvajal shining with the opening goal while Vinicius Jr. dazzled with the Man of the Match award. The celebrations had barely settled when, just a few weeks later, the Spanish giants delivered another bombshell by officially signing Kylian Mbappé, bringing to an end a transfer saga that had consumed years of effort.
If Mbappé lands Madrid, Barcelona doesn't have to get ready. The world has to get ready.
The addition of the French superstar gave Los Blancos what looked, on paper, like the strongest squad on the planet. However, football is not decided on paper. Just 1 year after assembling their dream squad, harsh reality came knocking, beginning with a painful 2-5 defeat to bitter rivals Barcelona in the Spanish Super Cup final in Saudi Arabia in January 2025.
Hansi Flick wins his first trophy as a Barcelona manager, man who has won every final that he has coached in.
The nightmare against their biggest rivals did not end there, as in April 2025, Real Madrid once again fell 2-3 after 120 tense minutes in the Copa del Rey final.
Should the game get that far? Short, Koundé, onto it to maybe win the Copa del Rey!
Even more painful than the scoreline itself, the frustration reached its peak in the final minutes, as Antonio Rudiger, Lucas Vázquez, and Jude Bellingham were all shown straight red cards for their reactions toward the referee, leaving behind a complete picture of collapse in both footballing, ability, and mental strength. That collapse of character ultimately led to a bitter conclusion to the entire season, as Real Madrid went completely trophyless domestically, losing all 4 El Clásico matches before being dismantled 5-1 on aggregate by Arsenal in the Champions League quarter-finals, culminating in Carlo Ancelotti's departure as he moved on to take charge of the Brazil national team ahead of the 2026 World Cup.
Alla Madrid e nada más, os quiero mucho. Ciao.
In complete contrast to that bleak picture, Barcelona, under Hansi Flick, touched down on a historic domestic treble in his very first season, winning La Liga, the Copa del Rey, and the Spanish Super Cup, with Real Madrid serving merely as an obstacle that the Catalan giants repeatedly brushed aside on their way to glory. Faced with such overwhelming dominance from their biggest rivals, President Florentino Perez refused to sit still, immediately appointing Xabi Alonso from Bayer Leverkusen and splashing €178 million on a trio of stars: Trent Alexander-Arnold, Dean Huijsen and Franco Mastantuono. Yet this expensive rebuild quickly turned into another horror loop during the 2025-26 season, as Real Madrid suffered another 2-5 defeat to Atletico, were humiliated by Liverpool and Manchester City in the Champions League, and endured a turbulent run of form in La Liga throughout November.
Getting through those games and then regrouping.
Yeah, I mean, the pressure is still there, and very much so. Even if you could say the players played for him yesterday, this and that, it's just another defeat. Real Madrid have won 2 of the last 8 games in the competition. It's not enough. It's not good enough. It's not acceptable for a club like that.
Do you know when the last time was that they won 2 out of 8?
No.
It was a French manager who then resigned.
Yes. So I can.
That was Zinedine Zidane, by the way.
The crisis reached its breaking point on January 11, 2026, with a 2-3 defeat to Barcelona in the Super Cup final, forcing the Bernabeu hierarchy to make a ruthless decision. Sack Xabi Alonso just 24 hours later, bringing his brief 6-month reign to an end.
Breaking news out of La Liga, where Real Madrid has agreed to mutually part ways with first-team coach Xabi Alonso.
Has Real Madrid improved? Has Xabi Alonso reached close to 100% of how he wants to leave his stamp on Real Madrid? No. So this mutually agreed to part ways, I'm not sure I buy it, because this is a man who you would want to center a project around that's going to take some time, just that Real Madrid isn't the same thing as Bayer Leverkusen, where you do have time to build a project around. Questions here or there about who had the power, who was the one really making the calls, and the direction of this project.
Alonso's brutal dismissal left Real Madrid with nowhere to turn, forcing them to place their faith in Álvaro Arbeloa, the 42-year-old coach promoted from the Castilla youth setup. Entering his introductory press conference amid countless doubts, Los Blancos' new head coach delivered a line that made the entire room laugh, while also bitterly capturing the harsh reality the club was going through.
Pero estoy seguro que si quisiera ser José Mourinho, fracasaría estrepitosamente.
The skepticism sparked by that statement quickly became painful reality as the season ended in complete failure. Real Madrid finished second in La Liga, 8 points behind Barcelona, were eliminated early in the Copa del Rey round of 16, and bowed out in the Champions League quarter-finals against Bayern Munich, extending their run to 2 consecutive trophyless seasons. Meanwhile, Barcelona continued to flex their dominance by winning their 29th La Liga title with 94 points and 95 goals. And what made it even more painful for Los Blancos was that the title was clinched at the Bernabeu itself after Barcelona's 2-0 victory on May 10, 2026. This was a historic milestone, as it marked the first El Clásico in 94 years to directly decide the La Liga title, a span so long that when the same thing last happened, neither we, our parents, nor even our grandparents had been born yet. That historic achievement earned Hansi Flick the honour of being named La Liga's coach of the season for the 2nd consecutive year. Even more remarkable is that Barcelona achieved all of that glory while La Liga had slashed their salary cap to just over half of Real Madrid's €426 million compared with nearly €755 million, to the point where there was even a period when they could not register Dani Olmo and had to rely on intervention from the sports court. Those two completely opposing pictures perfectly illustrated the two diverging paths of El Clásico between 24 and 2026. A Galacticos side spending recklessly yet drowning in crisis, ultimately losing out to a financially constrained team that still proudly claimed the throne in consecutive seasons. That contrast extended far beyond trophies and budgets. It was also clearly visible on the benches of both clubs. In just 2 years, Real Madrid experienced chaotic upheaval as Champions League winning manager Carlo Ancelotti departed. Xabi Alonso arrived and was sacked after just 6 months, before Álvaro Arbeloa, a youth coach who had never managed at the highest level, was forced to step in as a firefighter, only for José Mourinho to surprisingly return after 13 years away from the Bernabeu. The hot seat in Madrid became little more than a revolving door at a luxury hotel, in stark contrast to the absolute stability at Barcelona under Hansi Flick, who navigated the difficult period of playing across 3 temporary home grounds to deliver 2 La Liga titles and 2 consecutive Coach of the Season awards. It was precisely the absolute stability on the coaching bench that created a solid foundation, allowing 18 and 19-year-old talents like Lamine Yamal and Pau Cubarsí to develop with confidence without worrying about being disrupted by system-shattering managerial changes every 6 months. In stark contrast to that philosophy of sustainable development, Florentino Perez has instead chosen to bet the entire future of the project on José Mourinho, the man who once turned El Clásico into a fiery psychological war between 2010 and 2012, except this time, the Portuguese tactician's opponent is no longer Pep Guardiola but Hansi Flick.
Este es el Real Madrid que todos queremos, un Real Madrid independiente, un Real Madrid sin miedo a los retos y a los desafíos. Aquí sigo, los socios me conocen, aquí estoy para defender al Real Madrid. Vamos a seguir trabajando para que el Real Madrid siga ganando títulos. Vamos a seguir estando orgullosos del Estadio Santiago Bernabéu, del mejor estadio del mundo. Orgulloso de tener a los mejores jugadores del mundo.
Yet history contains a deeply questionable truth. In his first 3 seasons in charge of Real Madrid, Mourinho won just one La Liga title, and his subsequent journey through a series of major and smaller clubs failed to bring him another top-flight domestic league championship. That reality turns this reunion into a major question mark. Can a 63-year-old manager recreate the magic of the past, or is Real Madrid simply trapping itself in nostalgia for the past instead of searching for the future? With veteran icons departing and a completely new-look squad emerging from a series of blockbuster signings, the question surrounding the future of Los Blancos has become hotter than ever. That large-scale squad overhaul has directly opened the next chapter of this turning point. This volatile reality reflects a high-risk gamble with no way back for Florentino Perez as he decides to erase and rebuild the entire backbone of the system. The simultaneous arrival of Ibrahima Konate, Denzel Dumfries, Marc Cucurella, and midfield maestro Bernardo Silva will provide José Mourinho with battle-hardened pieces, but it will also place a difficult task on the shoulders of the 63-year-old tactician ahead of the new season: how to turn a collection of star personalities into one unified force in the shortest possible time.
Title for the Champions League, where do you see next season going?
I still don't think it makes them favorites. There's
Really?
a Barcelona team sitting there where a large bulk of those players are the players that won the World Cup. They are so together. They've just added a bit of quality in Anthony Gordon. They will probably add a player or two. They're so together and they have the formula. They just have to tweak it.
And the identity.
The formula. They're just making small tweaks on what is already a winning formula. Real Madrid have to build from scratch. I still make Barcelona the favorites.
That skepticism shows that the biggest question right now is not the quality of the squad, something Real Madrid has never lacked, but whether Mourinho's philosophy of defensive solidity and strict discipline can coexist with attacking egos like Mbappe and Vinicius Jr., a formula that already caused plenty of controversy during his first spell. Meanwhile, Barcelona enters the new season as the defending champion, but must face the pressure of defending its crown with its wage budget severely restricted. They have just welcomed Anthony Gordon from Newcastle, lost Bernardo Silva to their very rivals, and are now throwing everything into the race to sign Rodri, a crucial piece who could reshape the entire balance of power for the coming season.
Of course, Real Madrid have been the team that have been so heavily linked with him, and I reported some weeks ago that they were operating on the basis that he would be coming into the club. That's how confident they were. So something clearly appears to have gone wrong there to allow Barcelona to get their foot in the door somewhat. Their interest is said to be firm. Whether they've got the finances to tempt City into selling is a completely different matter, because we know how difficult it has been at Camp Nou in recent years with all the levers they've had to pull. And Manchester City, despite that contract status and his age as well.
The race for Rodri's signature, therefore, is not simply a commercial transfer, but the answer to a strategic problem that has stretched across multiple seasons for both giants. In reality, this story began 2 years ago, immediately after Toni Kroos announced his retirement in 2024. At the time, Real Madrid immediately identified Rodri as the dream piece to fill the enormous void in midfield, a Ballon d'Or caliber defensive midfielder at the peak of his career. Yet this ambitious plan nearly collapsed completely when the Spanish star suffered a serious ACL injury, forcing him to miss almost the entire season. His powerful return from injury erased all doubts, turning Rodri from a name pushed down Real Madrid's priority list back into a top target after his form exploded at the 2026 World Cup.
The winner of the Adidas Golden Ball and the player of the tournament is Rodri from Spain.
This elite-level performance forced the football world to acknowledge that he remains an irreplaceable type of midfielder at this moment. However, the next destination for the Spanish star if he leaves Man City remains a major question mark, because according to former midfielder Giuseppe Mendieta, in comments to Bet Brothers, Rodri has a special connection with Barcelona through 2 influential figures, Pep Guardiola and Siki Bagirastay, men who left a profound mark on his career in England.
As it stands, it's Real Madrid and Barcelona who want Rodri, and because they both want him, it's going to put the price up, because now suddenly City could play both clubs against each other.
But Michael, numbers being talked about are between 43 and 51 million pounds. This is a Ballon d'Or winner. This is, as Darmesh says,
that emotional tug-of-war becomes even more intense when placed against the financial reality, turning the race for Rodri's signature into an El Clásico as fierce as anything on the pitch. As of early August 2026, Real Madrid are prepared to put around 65 to 75 million euros on the negotiating table, while Barcelona's maximum spending limit stands at roughly 50 million euros, the leftover budget after they poured resources into signing Anthony Gordon, with Man City's stance repeatedly pushing the asking price between 60 million euros and 100 million euros, depending on the moment. This price war has turned into an incredibly tense three-way auction, in which the only party guaranteed to come out ahead is none other than Rodri and his representatives. We have now gone through a highly detailed journey from the context of Real Madrid's 2024 triumph, their successive collapses against Barcelona, the upheaval on the coaching bench, all the way to the blockbuster battle for Rodri in the summer of 2026. That fiery bidding war has therefore transformed the summer negotiating table into the most intense and compelling El Clásico of all, where both giants are fighting to present the most attractive offer for the captain's armband worn by the man who had just led his national team to World Cup glory. This will undoubtedly be a blazing prelude before the two sides officially face each other at least 4 times on the pitch next season in La Liga, the Copa del Rey, or the Spanish Super Cup, promising to open a dramatic new chapter in the greatest rivalry in football history. That declaration of war at the negotiating table is the clearest proof that the fire of hatred and ambition between these two giants has never shown any sign of cooling down. Two empires, one endless war, on the pitch, at the negotiating table, and now on the legs of a player who has just emerged from the pinnacle of world football. The endless war continues. If you enjoy our video, don't forget to hit like to help this video reach to other football lovers, and hit the subscribe button to follow for more interesting videos about football stories. See you in the next video.